Metagross has been a titanic threat to Pokemon since it debuted. This Steel Psychic pseudo-legendary has a phenomenal defensive typing paired with a great physical build of its base 80 HP and 130 defense while having a threatening base 135 attack stat. And as far as Metagross's Steel Psychic typing goes, this thing has an insane amount of resistances. It is outright immune to poison. It has a 4 times resistance to Psychic, and then it resists Dragon, Ice, Fairy, Normal, Flying, Rock, Grass, and Steel, while only being weak to the 4 types of Dark, Fire, Ghost, and Ground. Out of the 18 different types in Pokemon, Metagross has a favorable matchup into 10 of them between its immunity, resistances, and 4 times resistance. So overall, I think this Pokemon is going to be very scary in VGC when its Mega Evolution returns to tear up the scene in Pokemon Champions. While Metagross didn't have the most prominent role in Scarlet and Violet VGC, I think that's about to change. And why is that? Well, for starters, this Pokemon has great stats, as we already mentioned, with its attack and defense, but it also has pretty respectable special attack and special defense, and even its base 70 speed isn't bad at the end of the day. It's a little bit misleading because while Metagross and base 70 speed is not the fastest, Metagross can play inside and outside of Trick Room or Tailwind, depending on what it wants to do. It could drop some IVs in speed and run a speed-hindering nature to make it sure that it's optimized for Trick Room, or it can run some speed investment and play around in Tailwind. There are certainly new mechanics that have been introduced since the last time we saw Mega Metagross in Generation 7. Metagross has had its moves updated as well going into Generation 8 and Generation 9. And then there's some fantastic new partners and partner support moves that can power it up as well. So let's jump into Showdown and get right into that. And for starters, let's bring up the fact that Metagross has the Clear Body ability in its base form, which means this thing can't have its stats lowered, so it doesn't have to worry about the likes of Intimidate, the likes of Parting Shot, and even Screen Support is not going to help its opponents because Metagross gained access to Psychic Fangs, which that's a really nice buff to begin with here. Psychic Fangs is a base 85 physical stab psychic move that can destroy screens unless the target's immune, and on top of that, it also bypasses the effect of screens. Previously, Mega Metagross had to rely on Zen Headbutt if it wanted a stab psychic option, which is 5 points weaker in base power, and it's 10 points weaker in accuracy, so Psychic Fangs is a straight up upgrade to Metagross's arsenal, and Psychic Terrain exists, so not only does Metagross not have to worry about the likes of, say, Priority Shadow Sneak, or any priority move for that matter while it is grounded, it also gets a benefit to its Psychic type attacks, with Psychic Terrain giving it a boost. So that's a relatively nice upgrade right there, having both Psychic Terrain and Psychic Fangs working in its arsenal. Because back in Generation 7, this thing would have had to rely on Zen Headbutt, which now it certainly does not have to. It has that Psychic Fangs, and now it can benefit from Psychic Terrain being a lot more easily distributed. And what are we working with as far as the Mega goes for its stats before we go into more upgrades? Well, we have a base 145 attack now. We have 150 defense, 105 special attack, 110 special defense, and 110 speed. This thing got 40 points in speed, and it also got 20 points into its special defense while also getting 20 points into its physical defense. Although it only got the extra 10 points in its attack stat, Metagross also gains the offensive ability in Tough Claws, which will increase the power of its moves that make contact by 33%, which means Metagross has more firepower to offer than it's initially realized when you're only looking at the stat numbers. Now, before we go any further, let's take a quick little pause to get a word in about today's partner.
Arise. A new gate is opened.
A new gate to shower, that is. Cheeky is partnering with Solo Leveling to bring about this collector's box set. 4 brand new bars, 4 brand new scents inspired by the cast and characters of Solo Leveling. All of them made with Cheeky's moisturizing formula. If this excites you, great news. Use my code SHACO to snag yourself this amazing collector's set at 10% off. What are the scents, you ask? Well, for starters, we got Aura, inspired by Mr. Aura Farmer himself, Sung Jim Woo. I swear, this show is like 87% Jimwoo aura farming, and with Aura's bold blend of citrus and herbs, you too can flex on your fellow hunters. Maybe flexing ain't your style though, and you'd rather dance about the battlefield of the internet like Cha Hien. Well then, Dancer is the bar for you. Sweet fruit and vanilla will make you dance in that shower, all while your skin feels refreshed. Or are you more the commanding presence like Egress and Beru? Well, Knight and General certainly have that powerful presence. Knight's loyal blend of citrus and sturdy wood, and General's floral sweetness wrapped in a woody finish will leave you ready to seize the day. So what are you waiting for? Head over to usecheeky.com using my code SHACO for 10% off on your order. Go now! Pause buttons are a thing for a reason. Pause my video, go over there because they will sell out. I guarantee it. Thank you to Cheeky for partnering with me for today's video. Now let's dive right back in. Okay, so I mentioned Psychic Fangs as one of Metagross's direct upgrades. And what else did it get? Well, it gained access to the combination of Iron Defense and Body Press. Body Press didn't exist back in Generation 7, and it's kind of a shame because Metagross has a base 150 physical defense in its Mega form, and being able to raise up its physical defense with Iron Defense means Metagross doesn't have to worry as much about losing access to Clear Body, and it doesn't have to worry about having Intimidate drops because it can turn around and body press its opponents. What's the most prominent intimidator in all of VGC? Well, that's obviously Incineroar. I want to say it's Landorus Therian since that was the big threat back in Metagross's days as Mega Metagross, but now it's Incineroar, and you know what's nice about that? Incineroar is a dark type. Incineroar does not love body press, which means Metagross can look at Incineroar and go, here, kitty, 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 and then smack it with a body press, especially a +2 body press as well. And you know, the funny thing here too is because Metagross gained so much more speed as Mega Metagross, it could really make a case for having agility as a means of doing like a double dance set with having Iron Defense and Body Press, as well as agility, since you can raise up this thing's speed 2 stages, and then it can just kind of tear through the battlefield and just do a lot of damage. Now, alternatively too, you don't need to run a double dance set. You can take Iron Defense and Body Press out, have Agility, and then Metagross can go for really fast Psychic Fangs. It can go for Iron Head if it wanted to, and then that way it has potentially decent odds of making the target flinch so long as they are not holding a covert cloak, but it can also go for some big physical steel damage in the fact now that it has access to Heavy Slam. The heavier the user is than the target, the more damage Heavy Slam is going to do, which is great. Base Metagross is 1,212 pounds. Mega Metagross is 2,083 pounds, which means it's almost double what it was. Like if Metagross was at 1,000 pounds, Mega Metagross would be double it, but it's right now it's a measly 800 pounds more than what it used to be, meaning that Heavy Slam is going to not only benefit from the Tough Claws boost, but it's also going to benefit from Metagross getting even heavier and going for even more damage. But that's not all. You don't even necessarily have to run agility to get some speed into this thing, because Metagross gained access to the move Trailblaze in Generation 9, which is a low-powered, damaging move that can raise the user's speed stat by 1 when it makes contact. So now you're not only are you potentially breaking a focus sash, but you're also raising Metagross's speed. So let's put some EVs into the speed stat just to have some comparison right here. If you're running a neutral nature with max investment, you're at 162 points of speed. A +1 boost will give you a 50% increase to that number right there, which half of 161 is 81. If you decide you're going to run Jolly, you're hitting 178 speed, which means Metagross is going to get very quickly with that 50% modifier. So you're going to actually jump up to a whopping 267 with just a single Trailblaze, which that's relatively nice at the end of the day, because now Metagross is not only breaking a sash, but it's also doing a little bit of chip damage. Well, I guess that's the same thing, but it's also increasing its own speed, meaning Urshifu Rapid Strike is a very prominent Pokemon in the format that really won't want to deal with Mega Metagross with Trailblaze, since 1, you're hitting it for super effective damage, and 2, you're potentially breaking its sash, and 3, because of your extra bulk, an Aqua Jet might not necessarily finish this thing off if it's low HP. So really, you might need a Choice Band or Terra Water to really pick up that extra damage to kind of threaten a weakened Mega Metagross. And Lord help you if there's screens in that Metagross's favor. Like if there's a Reflect there, that Aqua Jet is not helping you in the slightest. Now, Surging Strikes, yeah, that's a little bit scarier, but I mean, at the end of the day, you don't want that Metagross outspeeding you, doing damage and breaking that sash, especially too if Metagross has some more of the support with the Pokemon that I have in the builder. Like, for example, female Indeedee. You have Follow Me support. You have Psychic Surge to set the psychic terrain. You have Helping Hand to increase Metagross's damage output. You have Heal Pulse to heal it up. So really good moves right there in Indeedee's case. Alternatively, you can make the case for having Clefairy and having Friend Guard, since Friend Guard will reduce the amount of damage Metagross will take, in addition to Clefairy also having access to Life Dew, which can't be redirected, as opposed to Heal Pulse, while it's less HP back. Clefairy being able to reduce the overall amount of damage Metagross takes, while also having a party-wide heal on the field for your side is not too shabby. And plus, it can change up and run Heal Pulse if it wants, so it certainly has that working in its favor too. And although you don't really see a whole lot of it, Clefairy does get after you, so on the off chance your opponent manages to get Trick Room up, you could use After You on Clefairy as counterplay to allow Metagross to move before some other Pokemon in the Trick Room, seeing as Clefairy's only got a base 35 speed to work with. So this thing is going to be very slow in Trick Room anyways. So, like, really, say, for example, we just used a Relaxed Nature to get that lower speed. 67 speed Clefairy, that could be relatively nice for Metagross to take the After You and go immediately after it in Trick Room. So there certainly is that if you're worried about your opponent trying to get that up as some counterplay. You can have After You in your back pocket to get around that yourself. You could also have Comfey here, and as I mentioned, Metagross does get that Iron Defense, so if you're running more special defense EVs right here, like say maybe we're running 100 and let's say 156 right there to get that 150. Maybe you have something like that for your Metagross and the remaining 100 points there. Maybe you have a more bulkier on the especially defensive side. Actually, let's split that up just so we can get some HP. Yeah, maybe we do something more like this, just so that Metagross has some HP and special defense investment. Maybe you're not necessarily running max speed. Maybe you're going to 170. Drop that one more just so we can go up one extra point. Maybe you have some more bulk right here. Maybe you have screens up. Maybe Metagross has that Iron Defense up as well. Comfey can come in with its triage ability, which will give it a +3 to healing moves, which means it's moving before the likes of Follow Me and Rage Powder since they're +2 priority moves. Comfey can come in, go for floor healing onto Metagross, raise up its HP, and then Metagross can go for more battles and prolong its stay on the battlefield and do more damage to its opponents. Maybe something like that happens, and Comfey is just kind of supplying Metagross with that HP recovery while also having Tailwind to speed it up as well. Maybe you're playing a bulkier Metagross in general. Maybe you're not running Jolly. Maybe you're running Adamant. And maybe say you're running... Actually, let's still run Jolly so that we get that 155 speed. Maybe you're running a slower Metagross just so you have this. Maybe you have that more HP. And now you have a little bit more firepower. Actually, you know what? Smogon's going to recommend this. Let's do that. All right. Maybe you got that 183 attack, the 179 HP, 144 special defense, and 155. Comfey comes in, goes for a Tailwind, speeds up your Metagross. You have some decent defenses right here. Now Metagross can go for damage. Maybe it's not even running the Trailblaze. Maybe it's running Protect and Thunder Punch so that it can hit some water types. Maybe it's doing something like that. And it's just kind of going from there and taking advantage of Tough Claws boosting up its attack as well. So maybe Comfey is providing the HP recovery as well as some speed. And then maybe we have the likes of, say, Blaziken with coaching, which Blaziken with speed boost gets very quick, very fast, and it doesn't take a whole lot to be able to outspeed Metagross. Like, at +1, Blaziken is going to outspeed Metagross on turn 2, meaning it can go for the coaching before Mega Metagross moves, and even if you decide you're not going to Mega Evolve your Metagross on turn 1, Blaziken can just go for the coaching right out of the gate since it's naturally faster than the Metagross, give that +1 attack and defense boost. Metagross Terras on turn 2, Blaziken maybe survived, and then it goes for a second coaching. Now Metagross is just free to just run rampant, even if it has the Trailblaze there. Now it's doing a lot of damage, and now its coverage moves are doing massive damage as well. So that could be a really scary thing with Metagross right there with the coaching support. And Blaziken doesn't have to be the only coaching Pokemon out there. As silly as it is, Riolu gets coaching. It's also a prankster Pokemon, meaning it gives priority to those status moves. So, I mean, imagine you got Riolu here with a Covert Cloak, so it's dodging Fake Out. It goes for the coaching into your Mega Metagross. Your Mega Metagross is a fast Pokemon to begin with, and now it's going for massive damage with that Heavy Slam, which is benefiting from the extra weight of Mega Metagross. Maybe it's going for Iron Head, or even Meteor Mash, or, Psychic Fangs if we're switching up from the Steel coverage to the Psychic coverage, or even just general coverage in general, such as, say, Thunder Punch, Ice Punch, Earthquake, stuff like that. I mean, Earthquake's probably not the best idea in this particular case because Riolu would be getting hit with it as well. And Earthquake's also not a contact move, so I mean, it wouldn't be benefiting from Tough Claws, but you get the idea. Maybe it's Body Press. Crazy idea, I know, right? Maybe that Metagross has taken the defense boost to heart and going for that Body Press to do some big damage. Or maybe Metagross is doing a little bit of a combination. Maybe it's got Heavy Slam, Body Press, and Iron Defense. Maybe it's already set up into Iron Defense, and now Riolu's coming in to boost up its attack while also further increasing its defense with that coaching. Maybe it's just something like that, and just going absolutely hog wild. And another important thing to keep in mind is in Generation 8, dynamic speed became a thing, meaning speed changes happen in real time. You don't have to wait a turn for a speed boost to go into effect or a speed drop into your opponent to go effect. It just happens as is, meaning Mega Metagross is now going to get faster automatically, whether it be it using Trailblaze itself, it getting a speed boost from Tailwind, even if its opponents take a Scary Face -2 speed drop, or even if they take a Thunder Wave para, like the change is going to happen immediately, meaning Metagross might be able to outspeed things and do some massive damage, which honestly, I think that's a great thing that it can have in its move kit. And then another thing too that also is beneficial to Metagross is the fact that the terrain abilities in general are more accessible to other Pokemon, specifically grassy terrain and misty terrain. With grassy terrain, Rillaboom now has access to it as opposed to, say, only Tapu Bulu, and while you don't see it as often, Galarian Weezing has access to Misty Surge, which means you can have Misty Terrain go up. Metagross doesn't have to worry about getting burned or paralyzed, meaning it doesn't have to worry about the negative effects of those two status conditions. It doesn't have to worry about having its attack cut from burn, or it doesn't have to worry about having its speed reduced from paralysis. So that's a relatively nice thing, with Galarian Weezing getting access to Misty Surge and naturally setting the Misty Terrain. And then on the flip side with Rillaboom, Rillaboom can provide a little bit of passive recovery for Metagross, while Grassy Terrain also reduces the output of opposing Earthquake and Magnitude attacks. So you don't have to worry about Metagross taking a super effective ground type spread move like that as well, which is a great boon to it at the end of the day. And then you also get some Pokemon with Misty Terrain, which are going to be relatively nice to work in Metagross's favor. Like, you have access to Enamorus, which can be relatively quick with that base 106 speed, going for the Misty Terrain. You have Iron Valiant with a booster energy, giving it a speed boosting Quark Drive to ensure that it outspeeds the Metagross and any other thing that might want to status it. So you certainly have that. Although it's certainly slower, Primarina can come in and set up the Misty Terrain, and the nice thing there is Primarina can be a bit on the bulkier side, depending on how it's trained. So, I mean, the Primarina can come in there, set up the Misty Terrain, and then Metagross is going to have a nice time not having to worry about having status conditions afflicted upon it. And the other thing, too, is Galarian Weezing is such a slow Pokemon. It has a much slower base speed than Indeedee and Rillaboom, so it would actually override the terrain if it comes in the same time as either of those two Pokemon. So that's a relatively nice thing as well. And, you know, even just seeing Tapu Fini return could be relatively nice, since Tapu Fini would be able to set that Misty Terrain while also having some supportive options of its own, such as, say, Life Dew to heal up Metagross, or maybe even just having a nice, reliable special attacking partner next to Metagross, for that matter. Like, Tapu Fini has been dearly missed, and its Water Fairy typing, along with Misty Surge, is a really strong option to have as well. So it would be certainly nice to see that return and do some nice work with Mega Metagross, to say the least. I mean, really, outside of Tapu Koko, like, Mega Metagross would benefit from any of the three Tapus and their terrains, or even their successors. I mean, Mega Metagross would certainly benefit from Indeedee as well as the other two that I just mentioned, since it likes all three of those terrains at the end of the day. And, you know, while it doesn't necessarily love electric terrain, it doesn't necessarily hate it either. Like, it would also benefit its Thunder Punch by giving it a boost from being grounded on electric terrain, and it would also protect Mega Metagross from being put to sleep, which could be really nice, especially since this thing doesn't really want to deal with Trick Room once it Mega Evolves, and Amoonguss is such a huge threat in Trick Room with its fast Spore. Having that electric terrain could certainly help as well, because Metagross wouldn't have to worry about being put to sleep by the Spore. So, just some food for thought for some things that are definitely going to make this Pokemon a lot scarier. And, you know, another thing too is, as far as Misty Terrain goes, going back to that, Klefki as a prankster, Klefki can come in, set up the Misty Terrain, which could be nice, and you don't have to worry about, say, the likes of, well, I was going to say Sneasler, but you don't really have to worry too much about Sneasler, because you're a Steel type, so you automatically resist Dire Claw, which, honestly, That's another win for Metagross right there. You don't have to worry about Sneasler's antics, and while you probably wouldn't love a close combat, if you got set up on the defensive front, whether it be going for iron defense or getting a coaching boost, I mean, you should be able to shrug off that close combat no problem, and then threaten Sneasler with either a super effective 4 times Psychic Fangs or a Sneasler Terras. I mean, you have access to potentially Body Press. Your Steel type damage should do a lot. If Sneasler hits you with that close combat and it's not a White Herb, I mean, it's taking a defense drop, so Heavy Slam should probably be able to seal the deal, especially with that Tough Claws boost. And honestly, outside of Terra Dark Throat Chop, Sneasler's probably not doing a whole lot to Metagross at the end of the day when it's set up. So that's certainly a great thing. And then, in Generation 9, Sableye got access to screens. So, yeah, we have a Prankster with screens that's also immune to Fake Out. We also have access to Grimmsnarl, which, again, screens and Prankster, but also Prankster Thunderwave, which is nice. Because I don't think Sableye gets it. We'll just double check. Oh, look at that. Sableye gets Thunderwave too. So, neat. You could have Prankster Thunderwave on either of these Pokemon. Sableye's naturally immune to Fake Out, so I mean, Metagross can certainly benefit from Sableye slowing things down if Psychic Terrain is not up. It also has those screens, so Metagross would certainly benefit from having the reduced damage output, which is relatively handy at the end of the day. And the other thing here too is you also get access to Prankster Tickle on Whimsicott. So I mean, having that Prankster, having Tickle to lower something's physical defense one stage and its attack can be great on the defensive front for Metagross to take reduced damage, while also for Metagross to do boosted damage into something. So really, I pity a Pokemon that gets a -1 defense drop and then takes a super effective or just a really hard-hitting neutral hit from Mega Metagross at the end of the day. Like, I mean, look at something like, say, Fluttermane. It doesn't need the physical defense drop. That Heavy Slam is just going to straight up return that thing back to the abyss where it came from. So, yeah, you certainly have that working in your favor. Now, some Pokemon you do have to be a little bit weary of with Mega Metagross is Shenpao and Fluttermane, because they're both really fast Pokemon, and they both have super effective attacks that Metagross wouldn't love to be hit with, but I mean, you have Psychic Terrain to protect Mega Metagross from Shenpao's Sucker Punch. If it's running Throat Chop, you have Indeedee with Redirection in Follow Me, so you certainly have that working. Similarly enough, you got that to deal with Fluttermane. You naturally resist Fluttermane's Fairy-type stab options as well. So unless Fluttermane is carrying Mystical Fire for some Fire-type coverage and some support to lower something's special attack, really, you should be okay with an Indeedee next to Mega Metagross, seeing as it can redirect away the Shadow Ball, it can redirect away Fairy-type attacks, as well as Mystical Fire, and Indeedee wouldn't be naturally immune to the Shadow Ball anyways. So, I mean, Indeedee would stick around, and then Metagross can turn around and maybe hit Fluttermane with a Heavy Slam and potentially pick up the knockout, or bring it down to a Sash and then turn around and use Bullet Punch to finish it off, because Mega Metagross has that too. And honestly, you don't even really need to rely on the Follow Me in that case, because you could have potentially Bullet Punch. I mean, here's the other thing though. You wouldn't be able to use Bullet Punch on Psychic Terrain, but if Psychic Terrain was expiring and you redirect it with Indeedee, or if you had another redirection mon, Metagross could just have that Bullet Punch in case it needs to pick off a weakened Fluttermane. So, I mean, it certainly has that working in its favor. Overall, it's a great Pokemon. I'm excited to see it come back in Pokemon Champions. I think Mega Metagross can certainly do a lot of damage. Also, it gets the move Hard Press, which is an interesting option because it does more damage the more HP the target has left. So, I mean, that's an interesting option that people could potentially experiment with, especially with a coaching boost in Metagross and with Tough Claws. I think Hard Press might be worth looking into at the end of the day as well. But anyways, that's more or less what I wanted to talk about with the return of Mega Metagross coming to VGC via Pokemon Champions. We've got some brand new mechanics. We've got the terrain conditions a lot more wildly distributed compared to back in Generation 7 when we last saw Mega Metagross, and it's got some brand new moves added to its kit that it will much certainly benefit from. Let me know what you think of this Pokemon down in the comments below, and also thank you to Cheeky once again for partnering with me for today's video. Be sure to check them out using my code SHUCKO to snag a nice 10% off on your order. Anyways, catch you later.